Hi, welcome to Bharat Shakti. I'm Dhruv and with me I have Ed Horn. He has flown the A400 for the Royal Air Force and is a military advisor with Airbus. The Indian Air Force is looking to buy 40 to 80 medium transport aircrafts. This is one of the lead contenders for that contract. And look at how huge this is, the belly of the beast. Facing off against this aircraft is the Embraer C390. Now let's go inside the belly of the beast and find out more about this aircraft. Hi Ed, so tell us about this aircraft.
Well, we're here with the German Air Force at Aero India with the A400M.
That's the reason for the flag over there.
This is an aircraft, a cargo aircraft with 3 missions in one. Firstly, the strategic long-range mission with heavy payloads at 30 up to 37 tons. And you see now we're here in the cargo compartment.
Right.
Below your feet is the flat floor, capable of carrying vehicles, tanks with tracks, perhaps helicopters as well. And above your head, you see the height of the cargo compartment is nearly 4 meters, which is the same as the C-17. So you have a very adaptable aircraft for carrying heavy cargo over long-range missions. The second mission is tactical transport. And from the beginning, A400M is designed for landing on unpaved runways, for airdropping off the ramp, and of course, parachuting out of the doors that you can see here, and also parachuting off the ramp.
So how many people operate this aircraft?
The minimum crew would be 2 pilots and 1 loadmaster, and the loadmaster would then be responsible for all the operations here in the cargo compartment, and of course the pilots are up front in the cockpit flying the aircraft.
That's where the loadmaster sits.
This is one of the seats,
right,
for the loadmaster or the jump master. Imagine you're on a parachuting exercise, a parachuting mission. The jump master would be sat here, or a second loadmaster. But the loadmaster himself has a loadmaster's workstation up at the front.
All right, let's walk towards.
He can control all of the equipment.
So let's walk in that direction.
Yes.
So how high is the ceiling?
It's 3.8 meters, which is the same as a C-17 at the lowest point.
So that would mean that it would carry a chinook.
Yes, we can fit a CH-47 chinook in here. Now don't get me wrong, it's tight, but it's possible.
So how many passengers can this aircraft carry at max?
Well, total number is 116, and the configuration that you can see today, you have these side seats that can be deployed alongside the cargo, 54 seats, and then you can fit the remaining seats through the center of the aircraft up to 116. But several of our operators, including the UK, France and others, during the disaster relief missions in Kabul and in Sudan, when you have a mission like that, you take a little bit of extra risk and you seat your passengers on the floor because you've really got to go.
With as many people as possible.
Yeah, and in that scenario they had over 230 passengers inside an A400M.
That's a record for this airplane.
Yes, exactly.
So can it also carry, say, patients?
Yes, medevac, precisely. You could have up to 66 stretchers in the full configuration, but in most cases our operators choose a smaller number of stations along the center of the aircraft, and then the medical staff have access all the way around the patient and they can deal with the patient in flight. One of the A400M's special powers for medevac is to retain a sea-level cabin pressure, so 0 feet cabin pressure, up to 19,000 feet of flight. So if you have a patient with a head wound or a chest wound or something like that, you can retain a very low cabin pressure, which is very advantageous for the patient.
And that's very rare for a transport aircraft of military nature.
Yes, exactly, yes. It's not uncommon, but it is something that A400M can do.
Right, very interesting. So you're also capable of both taking fuel and then also acting as a refueler. Is that true?
Yes.
Apart from, say, the transport and air refueling, what other roles does this aircraft provide?
Yeah, so I mentioned the strategic air transport, the long-range missions, the tactical air transport, landing on unpaved runways, airdrop, parachuting, And as you said, the aircraft can be refueled by a tanker. It's fitted with a probe on the front of the aircraft to be refueled by a tanker, such as an MRTT,
Right.
or indeed another A400M, because A400M can also be a tanker itself.
Right.
It can be fitted with pods on the wings, but also a hose in the center, fitted to the ramp of the aircraft for refueling large aircraft like an A400M. Recently, the German Air Force were able to refuel a V-22 Osprey.
In this aircraft?
With this aircraft, yes.
Wow, that's...
So it's really adaptable. You know, with the same aircraft, you can perform lots of missions.
Had you not told me, I wouldn't have ever believed this.
I'm sorry?
Had you not told me that, you know, a V-22 Osprey could fit inside this aircraft, I would never have imagined it.
The cargo compartment, the volume is 340 cubic meters.
All right.
So that's big, and you can see it right here.
Right. What is the length of the cargo compartment?
The length of the cargo compartment, well, it's long enough to fit the Chinook.
Right.
It's long enough for two armored personnel carriers, 8x8 vehicles. So you'll find it's long enough for more or less anything that you need to carry.
So probably when we have this rubber-like tank, we could just roll it up.
Yes. Well, you fill it right up. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
Our operators have carried all sorts of vehicles, of course, military vehicles, helicopters, but also large excavators, big pieces of equipment. When you have a disaster relief mission, you know you need to carry everything that you can.
So I've been on quite a few military aircraft. Let's find out how these seats feel.
Please take a seat. What do you think?
Very good.
Good. Well,
it's almost as good as an airline seat. But this makes it even more comfortable than an airline seat. This is quite good.
The seats here are designed for paratroopers. So you have some space to each side.
For all your equipment.
And of course you have a harness to wear. And then when you're ready to jump, naturally you would stand up.
Right.
You would head to the back of the aircraft and you would jump out.
All right. And you could also jump off from these doors?
Not these doors, no. This is the crew entrance door.
All right.
On the other side we have an emergency exit.
Right.
For an evacuation.
All right.
The paratroop doors are only at the back.
So the doors plus the ramp?
Correct, sir, yes.
All right.
And some of our customers choose to have seats on cargo pallets. So they have a forward-facing seat, a little bit like an airline seat.
Right.
And you can roll them on and roll them off.
Oh, all right. I think the C-130 can also do that.
Exactly, yes. And because the seats are connected to the standard pallet, it's 88 inches by 108 inches. It's the C-17 pallet, the C-130 pallet. It's the pallet used all over the world.
All right.
So any cargo that you have on an A400M, you could transfer to a C-130, you transfer to any other aircraft, military airlifter.
So now that we're speaking about the C-130, I know that you've flown the C-130 as well. What, as a pilot, do you think are the major differences in the two airplanes, from a pilot's perspective?
Well, the A400M is a fly-by-wire aircraft. We're going to go up to the cockpit and we'll have a look at that in a few moments. And because it's fly-by-wire, there are two things. Firstly, it allows the pilot to handle the aircraft just how he wants. And the computers inside the fly-by-wire system will protect the aircraft from stalling, from banking too far, or from pulling too much G. So that's the first thing. The second thing, with A400M particularly, is the number of control surfaces on the wing. You have the ailerons, as you would expect normally, but also you have 5 spoilers on top of each wing, and the spoilers can be deployed by the computers along with the ailerons to give an amazing rate of roll. You can roll the aircraft all the way to 120 degrees angle of bank, which is amazing for such a big aircraft.
Right.
And it rolls very quickly. So if you would need to maneuver the aircraft around an obstacle, or imagine low flying through the mountains, you have complete control.
So a responsive aircraft.
Very responsive.
With 11,000 horsepower engines?
Yes.
4 of them?
4 engines, 11,500 horsepower.
Wow.
And they're turboprops, right? And with the turboprop, you have more or less instant power. With a jet engine, you wait for the engine to spool up or to spin down. But with the turboprop, the angle of the blade changes depending on the power demanded by the pilot, and you have an instant response, which is great when you're flying at low level in the mountains, when you want to slow down for parachuting or aerial delivery, when you want to speed up because you need to go fast, or when you want to take off from a very short runway. The turboprop engines are best for two reasons. Firstly, you have a very quick response, so that shortens your takeoff distance. Secondly, if you have debris coming up from the runway, the turboprop engine is much better, much more resistant to that kind of thing. When you have a jet engine with a big intake, of course you can get yeah, exactly, sand or dust or vegetation or something like that.
So Ferrari in a way.
Yes. I must say, my experience of flying it, one of the most impressive things is the stopping power.
Right.
So in addition to being able to take off on a short runway, you can stop on a short runway.
I saw that yesterday.
Ah, very good. And the A400M has 12 main wheels, which is a lot compared to some of the other aircraft. But when you have a lot, and that allows the aircraft to spread the weight evenly over a soft surface. But when you have a lot of main wheels, you can have a lot of braking system as well. So when you combine the 12 braking systems, the carbon ceramic brakes, like the Formula One car, by the way, not quite the same, but you understand. When you combine that with the power of the engines in reverse thrust, you stop in such a short distance. It's such a physical feeling. You have the seat belts on and you really strain into the straps. Yeah, it's amazing. The stopping power is the most impressive.
So how short of a runway could it land on?
Well, it depends on your payload, it depends on the altitude, the temperature and so on. But a good rule of thumb would be around 900 feet.
300 meters.
Something like that.
Of this size.
Sorry, 900 meters.
900 meters,
yeah,
okay.
900
meters is not bad. So we have, especially in the northeast, we have many advanced landing grounds which aren't very long.
Yes, exactly, yes.
So I think it's probably like, less load or something.
It could be shorter if you have a smaller payload, less fuel. But I think one of the most important things about A400M in India is, just as you say, those high altitude airfields, the short runways, the temperature can be quite warm in the summer period. And when you have 4 engines, you have the redundancy of having 4 engines. And when you have such powerful turboprop engines, to be able to deliver your payload, your troops, your vehicles, your tank, whatever it is, then A400M with the really powerful engines is going to be the thing that can do the job.
So hot and high conditions is, I think, where this airplane will really succeed.
Yes, I think A400M has all of the capabilities to really prove itself in the hot and high scenario. I think one other important point is its capability in the event of an engine failure, a single engine failure, especially in India where the terrain is so high, or it can be so high. We would expect the 3 engine ceiling to be in the region of 25,000 feet. Of course, the 4 engine ceiling is 40,000 feet.
For a turboprop, that's quite a bit.
Exactly.
So, your old office.
Yes, please take a seat.
Oh, thank you.
And let me talk you through it.
So I'm your co-pilot today.
Yes. Welcome to the cockpit of the A400M. So some of the things we talked about, like the fly-by-wire.
Right.
Here you have the side stick controller. So this is how the pilot will manually fly the aircraft. But this is an Airbus. So there are many automatic modes as well. So for those long-range logistic missions, the pilot can program the flight management system and the aircraft will fly the route. And this aircraft even has auto-land, category 3 auto-land, so it can land itself as well.
In the worst of Delhi fog, this airplane can land itself.
Yes, yes it can, yes. But in a military mission, a tactical scenario, combat, low flying through the mountains, that kind of environment. Of course, the pilot wants to be flying the aircraft, reacting to any changes in the picture on the ground, you know, a new threat appears. And on the screen here, we don't have it showing today, but you would have a data link picture. So you would be connected to all the other players in the scenario, ground forces, naval forces, other aircraft as well, and you would be able to see all of them depicted on the screen. And also information about threats on the ground, the front line, and any kind of areas that you may need to avoid.
Interesting. So because you've also flown the C-130, recently India sent up one C-130 to Sudan to pick up Indian nationals and foreign nationals who were trapped in that country. Say today you were to fly that mission, I'm 100% certain that you take the C-130 with you, sorry, this aircraft with you. But as a pilot, why would you choose this A400 for that mission?
In that mission, I think,
apart from the load bearing capacity, just from a pilot perspective.
Thinking back to that mission.
Right, and it was dead of the night, they landed at 3 AM without any runway lights.
Exactly.
So
several of our operators used A400M for exactly that mission. And I would say there are probably two things that you would be thinking about when you're on the A400M. The first one, you mentioned the dark, in the middle of the night, no runway lights. Of course, A400M is fully night vision goggle compatible. But many of our operators choose an enhanced vision system, EVS. It's like an infrared camera. It's placed in the nose of the aircraft. You have the picture on your screen. And of course, these screens are configurable. So if you want a picture here, or even here in the third crew member station, you can have it. But the key thing on A400M is quite unique. You overlay it in the head-up display.
okay, you have heads-up display as well. Wow.
Yeah, so you're looking through your night vision goggles, and you can see the infrared picture overlaid in your head-up display.
I've only seen that on computers.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have a very dark conditions, or you have very dusty conditions, or smoke or fog or something like that, it really helps the pilots to identify the landing zone, identify the runway, and land safely. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, and this was feedback from the operators who performed that mission, was the speed of A400M. So we measure speed on A400M in Mach number,
which is very unique for a turboprop aircraft.
I would say so. The highest speed is Mach 0.72. So not as fast as an airliner like an A330, for example, but for a turboprop that's fast, right?
Very.
So the ability to go from the hostile area or the disaster zone, for example, to an area of safety, to turn around and come back. If you're going faster, you can perform more missions in one day. And in that scenario in the Sudan, nobody quite knew what was going to happen. It's very uncertain. So you want to evacuate your citizens as quickly as you possibly can.
And get away as quickly as possible.
That's very true. That's very true.
All right. So neatly laid out, like a typical Airbus cockpit, you could just simply go to an A330 or some other aircraft and be familiar with.
You would see a lot of similarities, for sure. So all of the Airbus know-how, experience throughout the years has been incorporated into this cockpit. But of course, this is a military aircraft.
Right.
So there are some military differences, like the head-up display. You have secure communications. We talked about the data link as well.
Right.
So you have full interoperability with all the other forces that you may need to interact with. If you look in the center here, you can see the thrust levers. These are connected directly to the FADECs in the engines, the computers in the engines. When you're ready to take off, you get your takeoff clearance. You put the thrust levers to the takeoff power setting, fully forward. At a predetermined altitude, you pull them back into one notch, and then more or less you don't touch them, because the fly-by-wire system can control the speed for you, which you've either programmed into the flight management system or you've selected on the autopilot control here. So even for air-to-air refueling missions where you're the tanker and you want to be nice and stable in flight, you don't want to be accelerating and slowing down, the auto thrust system is going to do that for you.
So one question, because you have the A330 right here, and then the KC-145, our IL-78s. You have one dedicated person who operates how much, like we don't have the boom system, but we have one person who's directly looking at these aircraft and like coordinating with them. So who does that in this setting?
In this case, it's the first tanker that we know about that's certified for refueling with just 2 pilots.
Oh, okay.
For sure, they will carry the loadmaster to complete the activities in the cargo compartment for safety, security, and so on. But during the mission itself for refueling, it's the pilot flying and the pilot not flying. The pilot flying, of course, is managing the autopilot, the location of the aircraft. The pilot not flying is managing the communication with the receiver aircraft and the refueling system. Here you have the flight management system. This is where the pilots would communicate with the aircraft. Here you have the control, and if you can see this here, this is a cursor.
Right.
So you, like a mouse, like on a computer. So you move the cursor around.
Like we have one over there.
Exactly. And on here, you would have, because we don't have the pods fitted to this aircraft, I'm not going to be able to show you exactly, but you would access the pods page here. You would preset the amount of fuel that you want to give, the left-hand pod or the right-hand pod. When the receiver pilot is plugged in and ready to go, you press go, and the aircraft would automatically dispense the fuel, and when it reaches the predetermined limit, then it would stop.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of automation which allows the pilots to really concentrate on the mission.
So how you traditionally think of a transport aircraft. So the same way you used to think of it traditionally as a fighter aircraft. But then that platform's evolved into a multi-role platform, and I can see just how this is more than just transport. It's just genuinely a multi-role aircraft.
Different operators will always have different requirements.
Right.
But we can react to their needs in those 3 ways: the strategic, long-range, heavy payload, large items, helicopters, and so on; the tactical transport, landing on unpaved runways, paratroopers jumping out, aerial delivery, by the way, up to 16 tons of one load, container delivery system, 24 containers up to 24 tons, a whole different range of parachutes, static line parachuting, free fall parachuting, all the way up to 38,000 feet for free fall parachuting.
Free fall power.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite impressive.
And then you have the air-to-air refueling mission as well.
How much fuel can you transfer?
Well, the aircraft is capable of carrying 50 tons of fuel, for sure. You need to leave some fuel for
yourself, yeah.
For yourself, but depending on the range, depending on the reserves that you may need, you can transfer as much as you need. If you want more fuel, we have an option to have refueling tanks inside the aircraft. So you can have 2 of those. We give you an extra 11,000 kgs. So you have over 60 tons of fuel.
So you can eat, okay, wow, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Right, cool. So this is the A400M, and I think all your questions about this aircraft have been answered. Thank you, Ed.
No problem.
Great guide.
I love talking about A400M. Can you tell?
Well, I think I like listening about A400M now.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.